Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. On this podcast, we discuss higher ed marketing topics around creating and capturing demand. Before we jump in, I have a quick message from our sponsor. So Concept 3D's purpose is to foster connections through technology, elevating the way businesses connect with their community by leveraging the power of events and locations. If your school needs an updated interactive map, virtual tour, or a centralized events calendar, please reach out to concept3d.com. Thank you. All right, so let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Shiro, and I will be your host today. And today I'm super excited to introduce our guest speaker. He is the author of several books, the latest being From Reopen to Reinvent. Also, he's the co-founder of the Clayton Christensen Institution for Disruptive Innovation, adjunct lecturer, podcast co-host for Future You and Class Disrupted, and a contributor to several other news outlets. Please welcome Michael Horn.
Hey, thanks so much for having me here. It's a delight.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm really excited for our conversation today. And I love to ask this question at the start of every podcast, just because everyone's so involved with higher ed here. What do you love about higher ed?
Oh, I love the question. I would say the boundless possibility, right? And I mean that in multiple ways. You go onto a campus and that energy and just enthusiasm for we can do anything, we can solve any problem is awesome. The beauty of those campuses. I love the research side of it as well, right? Like that, our response to COVID could not have happened with the vaccines were it not for universities. Just that boundless possibility of what the future could be.
I love that. Yes. It's the horizon is very wide. I love your answer. That's great. I know you've authored several books, and today I wanted to focus a little bit more around your book, Choosing College. Can you explain really quickly, like who the audience is for and what you're trying to accomplish with as a reader?
Yeah, absolutely. Choosing college, how to make better learning decisions throughout your life. So the first half of the book is basically for parents and prospective students about how to make these choices for any educational experience after you've turned 18. And what we did was basically diagnose the 5, we call them jobs to be done, but they're sort of the sets of forces that propel you to say, today's the day I'm going to enroll in, such and such college. And based on that rationale, the progress that you're desiring, what does that mean for your decision-making process? And what are the big things you should take into account? And then the second half of the book, we turn around and rightly or wrongly, we say to institutions, okay, if this is why they're coming to you, what does this imply for the programs you're designing, for how you're reaching out to students, how you're enrolling them, and how you make sure that they're successful and it's the right fit for what you're trying to accomplish at your institution.
God, I love it. Thank you. I love that you take a multi-pronged approach to it. Our audience is definitely more in the institutional side.
Yep.
And so, I love this framework, or I guess a different way to look at what college is doing is like, what job are students hiring colleges to do from them? And I thought that was really unique. Could you explain a little bit more like what you mean by this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a long-standing innovation theory in the world of innovation around trying to understand the progress that an individual is trying to make in a particular context or circumstance, right? And the notion is like they're not buying a product category or trying to consume college for its own sake. It's part of them making progress in their lives. And what we really want to understand is, what does progress mean? What does good look like for them? What does value look like for them? And then position our services, our offerings around helping them try to make that progress. And so often in the world of college, this is more obviously in the selective side of things, but we students sort of have this mindset, gosh, I hope they choose me. And we want to say, well, you're choosing them as well, right? Let's flip this lens on its head a little bit. And then I think the reality is colleges have always been operating under a world in which students are choosing them as well. And so how do you optimize all that you do, your operations, your marketing messages, everything, so that you can really show them, for the right students, like, we are the place where you can make progress in your life.
God, I love that. And where can colleges really start in terms of like understanding or analyzing what job they're doing for students. Like, I don't know if it's macro or micro, but it seems like this really big topic, and I like don't know where to get started tactically.
Yeah. So, I mean, the book gives the cheat sheet, I guess is what I would say, right? We interviewed several hundred students and
Gotcha.
created mini documentaries of their choices to go to school, from, your 18-year-old to your 60-year-old returning to school online, right? Like there's a pretty big range of individuals that we did this research on. And it comes down to 5 jobs to be done is what I would say. It's helped me get into my best school. So these are people who are going, because it's all about getting into the best as they define it. This isn't necessarily the Ivy League. It's for them. The second is help me do what's expected of me. So a lot of individuals are going because someone else told them that they should do this, but they're not actually that into it. The third is help me get away. People want to get away from their hometown, their current context, and college is an escape route, an acceptably social one. The fourth is help me step it up in my life, right? Like it's sort of, there's something that's not right. There are people who are depending on me, and college is the means, if you will, to help me make progress in my broader life. And then the fifth one we see is the help me extend myself. And this is sort of that lifelong learning job that I think faculty love to serve, but it's often, we found really an adult learner job. It's sort of like now I have the time and space where I've always wanted to challenge myself in this way, or I've always wanted to pursue this. And then obviously, colleges or universities, they're going to have their particular flair of that, right? They have a business program, and which kinds of those jobs does it attract, right? Or we have a medical program, or we have a particular segment. And so what I always say is like, understand the job to be done first, and then start to layer in all the elements of persona and demographics and, the program mix and so forth. Like that comes underneath once you understand causally, why are they coming to you?
Got it. And so I'm just trying to understand what you're hearing and repeat it back to you to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So of the 5 jobs we've done, a good place to start is to start segmenting each of those audiences that you're talking to understand, the students or prospective students' needs, and then separate them into those segmentations or programs, I think you call them. Is that kind of what you're suggesting? Gotcha.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I guess the other amendment I would say is, because folks will be thinking about this not just from the communication standpoint, but also the program design standpoint, right? There's a big need right now to launch new revenue generating programs in higher ed.
Right.
One of the really big findings we've had through a lot of our research is there's not a lot of offerings that can be all things to all people. There's not a lot of programs that can serve all of those jobs to be done well, because often what progress looks like in any one of them is at odds with what it looks like in another one. And so being super clear about who you're serving and what that means in terms of how you reach those students, the signals you send that to other students who are in a different job, saying like, this is not the program for you, right? And being transparent around that are all parts of crisping up your message, frankly, optimizing your message, so that you're not wasting dollars on students who are not a good fit and unlikely to enroll or unlikely to succeed, and really helping you target better. And so I think step one is even understanding like, which one of these do we want to be and which one of these do we attract? And then how do we really harmonize that?
With institutions, obviously different sizes, like if you're a smaller institution, is it better to like understand like, hey, like we do a good job of 2 of the 5, like let's focus there and, double down our focus for now and see what measurement outcomes we get, like revenue generating outcomes we get? Is that sort of a good approach?
100%, I think, right? And like Southern New Hampshire University, I think, is a great case study of this. They realized that their brick and mortar campus way back in the day was sort of, Paul LeBlanc, the president, would call it the coming of age job. We'd call it the help me get into my best school job. And then he realized that there's all these other students coming to the online program who were the help me step it up, right? They'd had enough life experience. They wanted a streamlined experience. And it's a very different marketing message, right? Southern New Hampshire University, It's 2 different programs, first of all. They don't try to commingle those. And second, they basically say, for the help me step it up adult learner who's had a lot of life experience, a lot of hard knocks, right? And is looking to use this as a way to make their lives lift up better. And they know that there's people around them who are depending on them to do so. that's what leads to the advertisement that Southern New Hampshire has around, the father working the construction job, going to school at night online, and with his kids saying, "You can do it, Dad," sort of. And then at the end, he graduates, and the son says, like, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you, Dad. You did it." And the dad, in this tearful way, right, says, "I did it for you." And as a student in that, or prospective student, right, looking to lift up your life, you're like, that speaks to me. It's clearly not speaking to the 18-year-old, right, who's going to have this more coming of age sort of benefit, if you will, of an experience. Or frankly, that student who's the help me do what's expected of me. By the way, that population of students doesn't fare too well in college. And so I think really if you're attracting those students, the job of a college is to figure out, how do we put programming in front of them to build an intrinsic reason to be here in the first place? And then we can really help them succeed and graduate. That's a totally different set of messaging, though, and communications.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're not selling the social elements. You're not selling the football game days and in your messaging there. You're selling a different message and outcome for sure.
Yeah, and I'll give you a quick example on this, right? Another student we talked to, she ended up enrolling in a historically Black college, and it was all about like the right fit of the gospel choir for her, right? And so you think about like that's all student experience and what she thought, like, I want to sing aspirational, I want to sing in that gospel choir. Or University of Alabama, right? Like it's all about the football, and you get to be part of the school spirit and part of something bigger than yourself, and it's going to be fun and so forth. That's a particular job to be done to help me step it up, to help me extend myself. People, they don't care about that. And in fact, they don't want to pay for it.
Right. No, that's good. I like how you covered both sides there. Thanks for doing that. Examples always help me understand. So that's huge. I love that. Taking one step back from all this, I have kind of a general question for you, just because, I just think you're a leader in the space and you digest information at all levels. But, where do you think the state of higher education is going, whether it's traditional, non-traditional? I know lots of people are talking about recessions for coming 2023. There's obviously enrollment cliff that's very top of mind for a lot of my audience, which is, admissions marketers, marketing, communications. Like, where do you think this is all going right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think traditional higher ed is in a difficult place because that demographic cliff is hanging over it, on top of now 12, 13 straight years of declines in enrollment. And so you're coming in at a weakened position where, 2-3 years from now, we're about to see, particularly in the Northeast and Midwest, right? We're about to see some real softness in the market. And I think part of the challenge, and this gets to the marketing piece, it gets to the job to be done piece. I think when students look out at the landscape, they see a lot of cost in the experience. They hear all the headlines around debt, and a lot of the schools look pretty undifferentiated to them. Like they're trying to be all things to all people. And it's my sense that the schools that have really said, no, like we do this well and lean into it, like entrepreneurship, Babson, engineering, Olin College, right? Like that's what they're known for, and they live it and they love it and they really embrace it in everything that they do. And they're not trying to be all things to all people. They have that clarity in messaging and programming, and it's synchronized. I think we'll be in the best position going forward because the value proposition is extremely clear to students. I think those that continue to try to cast a wide net and sort of be all things to all people and sort of do the best of, I think that's going to be a very difficult place given the declining demographics. And it's obviously putting pressure on institutions to launch new programs. Because, I mean, I guess here's the other piece of it. We know that there's 90 million some odd adults who need to upskill and reskill in their lives right now. And they need more education. And that is great news, I think, potentially for higher ed. But it means launching programs that look pretty different from what they've done in the past. And frankly, there's a lot of competitors in that space that are not accredited. They're not traditional higher ed players. And so it's difficult and crowded, and really nailing the value proposition, I think, and having real clarity when you start to launch and market one of those programs is going to be even more important in the years ahead because it's just gotten so crowded right now.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And Yeah, I like that point you made, like the adult learning audience size, is a growing market share. I think I talked to another guest who their college specifies in adult learning recruitment. And, she was sharing some numbers with me that it's a growing population because there's a big need for it. Like you said, because the enrollment cliff's been now going on for almost over a decade, you said, right? So those students who graduated 8 years ago are now, maybe looking about getting additional post-secondary education. So that's
well,
huge.
and actually on that point, right, something that we know from the research is that STEM degrees and things of that nature pay off better than liberal arts in the immediate future, but that actually they sort of tail off the longer someone's been in the job market. And that's because the skills, the knowledge, it changes in STEM fields like over time, right? And so you have to be updating your skill set if you want to stay up with it. And so we know a lot of students, for better or worse, like we could have that debate as well, have chosen not to go in the humanities and liberal arts sort of classic subjects and increasingly have looked at business, IT, STEM fields, et cetera. We also know that those students are going to continue to need to level up in their skill set as a result to continue to enjoy the life that they want to have. Well, that's a great opportunity for higher ed, and it's great for the world because there's more people wanting more education and needing more education as well.
Gotcha. No, that's huge. I didn't know that. So what you're saying is that if you start out in STEM, your growth starts up very high, but you need continuous education to upkeep that, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the history majors like me end up going into management or something like that, and we sort of like fake it, I think, till we make it. And when you're in a STEM field or you're an engineer or whatever else, like
right,
you got to actually do real work. So that continued upskilling becomes really important because the half-life of knowledge and skills continues to shrink.
That's amazing. That kind of applies directly to myself selfishly as well. I was arts and science, environmental studies, and here I am today in tech. So
yep,
it's pretty interesting. That's great. And I was just wondering, where could some of our listeners reach out to you and maybe also learn more about books you've published or how to follow your podcast? I'd love for you to share some of that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter if that still is a platform whenever people listen to this, at Michael B. Horn. I'm on Substack, The Future of Education, michaelbhorn.substack. And then my website is michaelbhorn.com, and that's sort of the hub, right, for everything that's going on. And obviously, you can also follow me on LinkedIn. So those are sort of the sources, I guess, to stay up with all the books, with all the writings, with all the podcasts. And frankly, a lot of these interesting dialogues and conversations. I'm trying to figure out new ways to use the Substack to enter into chats with, subscribers and things like that to really make sure we're answering the questions that are on people's minds as they try to figure out how do we create this future of education that's so imperative, but is also really messy and in flux right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a crazy amount of change going on right now. From everyone I've talked to, everything's changing very rapidly. That's amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much again for joining our podcast today. It was amazing to have you on. Hopefully it's not our first and last one, but hopefully we have some more coming.
Well, I'll hope for the long-time participant, not first-time caller next time, but I appreciate you hosting me. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. And to our listeners, thank you for listening in as well. Please join us on the next one. And of course, if you are looking for an interactive map, virtual tour, or calendar solution, please reach out to concept3d.com. Thank you.